It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We here at RBN are working with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute to bring our audience the best in combat, tactical, and defensive firearms training. Whether you're a private citizen who is new to firearms or you have a concealed weapon permit and want a level of training that surpasses what you've received from your local gun range, Front Sight provides priceless education and skills taught by seasoned law enforcement, military, and private citizen instructors to levels that far exceed law enforcement and military standard. With nearly 1 million responsible citizens trained from every town, city, and state from across the United States, Front Sight has bolstered the Patriot movement to a whole new level. Contact Dan Sutterfield by phone at 573-762-2356 or 573-465-2356 or shoot him an email at domedan, DOMEDAN, at hotmail.com. This is a limited time opportunity. Don't miss it.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
Welcome to the Michael Rivero What Really Happened radio program.
And welcome to our show today. It is Tuesday, May 4th, 2021, also known as Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. And it's also the anniversary of the Kent State Massacre back in 1970. Not as much fun as Star Wars, I'll grant you. We have a lot to talk about today. It's been a very busy news day. And as usual, we're going to do news until we run out of news. And then we're going to open up the phone lines for your comments and questions and so forth. Mike is in our control room, keeping us out of trouble and keeping the systems running there and keeping the mutant hamster fed. So let's get right on into it. The weather in this part of the country is really kind of wild. We had a big thunderstorm earlier today. More rain and thunderstorms coming in tonight. Apparently a tornado hit outside Dallas. Was blowing 18-wheelers off the road, and 100 million people are still under a severe storm warning across the South. So Mother Nature's definitely having problems these days here. Now, we reported last week on the new census is actually transferring House of Representative seats from Democrats to Republicans, and apparently up in New York, they're about to lose a congressional seat, and the word is that it will be Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez who gets the axe, because she's kind of seen as a wild card and not good for the Democrat Party image. So we'll see what happens with that. Now, Kevin McCarthy allies are saying Republicans are now fed up with Liz Cheney, and she will be out of her leadership position by the end of the month. A lot of faction fighting going on. A picture has surfaced of one of the jurors attending a Black Lives Matter rally, wearing a Get Your Knee Off Our Necks t-shirt. And this juror lied about involvement in protests and Black Lives Matter on the jury questionnaire. And this right there might help Derek Chauvin win an appeal in that case. Speaking of Black Lives Matter, they have released an updated set of demands, and it says we are joining Representative Ilhan Omar, Representative Ayanna Pressley, Representative Cori Bush, Representative Jamal Bowen, and others who are demanding Trump be immediately convicted in the United States Senate. And Trump must also be banned from holding elected office in the future. They are very much afraid of this guy. Black Lives Matter called for Donald Trump to be permanently banned from all digital media platforms, arguing he uses the platforms to recklessly and irresponsibly spread lies and disinformation. So they're trying to cancel culture Donald Trump. Black Lives Matter also demanded that all GOP lawmakers that, quote, stoked Trump's conspiracy theories and encouraged the white supremacists to take action to overturn the election be expelled from Congress. And again, you can smell the fear that their fraud from last November is becoming known to the majority of the American people. Getting on back to Ashley Babbitt, the family, of course, is suing the Capitol Police right now, and their lawyer has come on out saying that the still unnamed police officer who shot Ashley Babbitt did not issue a warning first. Now, the official story carried by the media is that he did shout a warning to those people trying to get into the Capitol. But witnesses are saying no, he did not, and a video has surfaced of the incident in which the officer appears to issue no commands to stop or any verbal warning that he would fire. He just lifts his gun and pulls the trigger, and that is basically it. Story coming on out of VDARE. The Biden regime is turning the Bush-era war on terror laws against white America. And news reports through the past 2 weeks demonstrate just what Biden and the left have in mind. A major surveillance operation involving not only the usual federal alphabet agencies, but also private informers to designate all dissidents as terrorists and white supremacists, and co-opting the private sector to punish them, as in putting America First Nicholas Fuentes on the no-fly list. So the boot is coming down hard and fast. Biden plans to pay outside entities to surveil social media for information about extremist groups, and they don't mean Black Lives Matter and Antifa. All right. Story coming on out of amgreatness.com. The Biden's intelligence community is breaching their legal authority to target the right. And the freshly reelected Republican senator from Nebraska had kind words this week for Joe Biden's intelligence chief. Senator Ben Sasse said the American people are blessed to have an intelligence community as serious as ours, and he called the group, which includes FBI Director Christopher Wray and CIA Director William Burns, heroes, and wanted to say thank you in front of the American people. Now, Ben Sasse, who is supposed to act as a fierce skeptic, not a fawning cheerleader of the world's most powerful intelligence apparatus, singled out Director of National Intelligence Avril Haines for praise. Sasse was just swooning over the Director of National Intelligence. Another story from the Information Clearinghouse. A report declassified last Wednesday by the Department of Homeland Security is raising serious concerns about the possibly illegal involvement of the intelligence community in U.S. domestic political affairs. Now, the report was titled Domestic Violent Extremism Poses Heightened Threat in 2021. It was issued March 1st. And it's a report from the Director of National Intelligence saying it was prepared in consultation with the Attorney General and the Secretary of Homeland Security and was drafted by the National Counterterrorism Center, the FBI, and the Department of Homeland Security, with contributions from CIA and the Defense Intelligence Agency. Okay. Now, there's a new center out there called the Foreign Malign Influence Center that overtly is supposed to be looking at foreign interference in U.S. elections, but its real focus seems to be of intelligence agencies' interference in domestic politics. We talked about this one a little bit yesterday. Joe Biden last month quietly signed a ridiculous broad executive order to allow the government to deprive American citizens and organizations of their rights and property by arbitrarily linking those persons to real, imagined, or vaguely defined activities of the Russian government. And again, poor definition there gives them a lot of latitude to say, even people who speak out against war with Russia could be construed as aiding the Russian government and would be subject to this quite unconstitutional and tyrannical treatment. Meanwhile, Democratic Representative Jerry Nadler, the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, is out there demanding that news outlets stop reporting things and ADL head Jonathan Greenblatt don't like. And basically was on the warpath against an article from Matt Taibbi, shared last week by the National Post, titled Congressional Democrats' Heroic Fight to Save the Rich. And Taibbi pointed out how New Jersey Democrat Josh Gottheimer is one of a group of congressfolk threatening to hold up Biden's infrastructure bill if it doesn't include a giant tax cut for wealthy people. Now, the Harvard man and the Alpha Epsilon Pi brother is a member of the so-called SALT Caucus, a group of congressfolk threatening to hold up the infrastructure bill if it doesn't include a full repeal of a Donald Trump-imposed $10,000 cap on deductions of state and local taxes. Now, Matt Taibbi's article does not explicitly say that Gottheimer is Jewish, but Alpha Epsilon Pi is a Jewish fraternity, and merely pointing out that Gottheimer attended that fraternity has been declared as anti-Semitism, according to the ADL's Jonathan Greenblatt. So they're not even trying to hide the growing dictatorship. Following up on one of the earlier stories, CNN is out there saying that the Biden administration is considering using private firms to conduct warrantless surveillance of U.S. citizens, having sold the idea that private companies are not bound by the Bill of Rights. The government is now using private companies to spy on the American people in complete violation of the Fourth Amendment. And the plan in being discussed inside the Department of Homeland Security would, in effect, allow the department to circumvent laws that limit what the federal government can do in surveilling U.S. citizens without a warrant. So they're definitely spying on you right now. Alan Dershowitz is out there saying that the raid on Rudy Giuliani's home makes America look like a banana republic, and he's certainly correct on that. And the recent raid on Giuliani's home by the FBI is nothing more than a new chapter in the witch hunt against anyone who ever worked with or defended Donald Trump. We saw that with Roger Stone and Michael Flynn. This is just more of the same. There was a little bit of an incident at CIA headquarters. There was an armed man tried to get through the main gate at Langley, Virginia, and wound up in a standoff with the CIA security detail. The FBI was brought in, and they shot and wounded this man outside CIA headquarters following the standoff. The man has not been identified. No motive has been given. Now, Tucker Carlson has dropped another bomb. GOP leader Kevin McCarthy and pollster Frank Luntz are roommates. And Tucker Carlson dropped a bombshell on the GOP establishment Monday night and revealed GOP leader Kevin McCarthy is renting a room from pollster Frank Luntz. Now, Frank Luntz lobbies on behalf of some of the world's most left-wing corporations like Google and Nike. So how does he have so much influence over the Republican Party? And it certainly looks like a serious conflict of interest. The other news that broke yesterday, Bill and Melinda Gates are calling it quits after 27 years. I guess Bill Gates couldn't make Millennium Edition work. He couldn't make Windows Vista work, and I guess he couldn't make his marriage work either. So Melinda Gates has filed for divorce, claiming the marriage is irretrievably broken. There is no prenuptial agreement, which signals there might be a major fight over the $130 billion fortune the Gates have, although so far the word is that it's going to be an amicable separation. Bill and Melinda Gates are going to continue to work together at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and meanwhile they're going to carve up the Gates fortune, which includes Da Vinci artworks, private jets, and luxury homes, including the $125 million futuristic eco mansion called Xanadu 2.0. It has a 100-seat dining room, a pool with fossils, and a vast library with a Great Gatsby quote engraved. The Gates also own a $43 million estate in Del Mar, California, plus a $59 million ranch in Florida and a Wyoming home. So that's going to be kind of interesting. And it may turn out to be contentious because Bill Gates has hired his 97-year-old billionaire lawyer friend Charles T. Munger, who's friends with Warren Buffett, to represent him in his divorce from Melinda. So probably the tabloids are going to have a lot of fun from that. And story coming out of Russia today saying as Bill and Melinda Gates split up, it's time to divorce the Microsoft billionaire from calling the COVID shots for us. Because Bill Gates is not a doctor. He wasn't elected to anything, and now we know he can't keep his own house in order either. So it's time to quit pretending that he's the oracle on COVID-19 vaccines or how to run the world. And I could not agree more with that one. There's an advocacy group. It's an internet freedom advocacy group. NetChoice has now been called out for promoting censorship on social media. Seems like it's not exactly what they were supposed to be, but that's where they are. Over in Arizona, there has been a leak of initial numbers from the audit showing that Donald Trump did win the state in a landslide. We cannot confirm those numbers, but that's what's coming out so far. Meanwhile, the Arizona judge, Dan Martin, released the 2020 election audit team's security document to the public last week, which means anybody intending to interfere with the audit now has a blueprint with which to do so. And Judge Martin was selected by the wife of one of the 5 Maricopa County Board of Supervisors. This was after the first judge recused himself. Judge Martin was appointed and right away had concerns because he was appointed to the court by former Democrat Governor Janet Napolitano. Meanwhile, story coming out of Investment Watch blog, CNN was actually caught harassing the election workers outside the Arizona audit. Because remember, if it is absolutely proven there was massive election fraud last November, the corporate media shares that responsibility. And the corporate media are on the warpath. They're out there saying that the only reason for the Maricopa audit is to damage confidence in our election system. Well, the audit isn't what damaged confidence in the election system. It is the massive, massive election fraud. Up in Windham, New Hampshire, the selectmen moved their most recent meeting back to a small room at the city hall to try and keep citizens outside, and hundreds of concerned citizens were left standing outside. And the Windham residents stood up with their backs turned to the board. And they screamed and chanted, "Resign, resign, resign." The board members then walked out of the meeting. They were obviously not expecting this kind of a public outcry over their obvious corruption in appointing a very much pro-left organization to audit their election. Over in Antrim County, plaintiffs are getting ready to introduce new evidence on the voting systems. And a new expert weighs in on the ongoing election-related lawsuit in Antrim County, Michigan. And story that hit just before we went to airtime, the Supreme Court has once again refused to hear yet another lawsuit regarding vote fraud from Arizona. Justices see no evil, hear no evil, and speak no evil are absolutely adamant that they are not going to allow any of the evidence to actually see the light of a courtroom while they have any choice in the matter. Okay, getting on to COVID-19 here. There's an article that came out of Natural News where Pfizer is now admitting that vaccinated people shed infectious particles. And as we reported yesterday, researchers have shown it is the spike protein itself that is the disease-causing agent. And the spike protein is also in the vaccines, and that is why so many people getting the vaccine come down sick after getting that shot, which included my doctor, I might add. And so Pfizer is now admitting that the vaccinated people are shedding those spike proteins and making people around them sick. Okay, we're going to take a break for commercials. More news after these few words.
Here at Republic Broadcasting Network, we have been building our online store. Well, we have been focusing on bringing you the best talk show host in the country. Here at Republic Broadcasting Network, we also want our listeners to have products they can use every day and in times of emergency. We have added new products each week to our store. Your support of this network, plus products at the best prices, is a win-win situation. Check out our new store. Go to our website, republicbroadcasting.org, and click on the online store located at the top of our website. Together, we can continue to grow RBN and help our listeners prepare for the future. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and click on our online store or call us.
800-724-2719, extension 3. 800-724-2719, extension 3.
As a listener of RBN, you're surely concerned about being informed and being ready for whatever may come. Please consider the following questionnaire as a soul-jarring wake-up call. If you answer no to more than 2 of these following questions, you probably aren't going to make it through any major disruption in our country. The questions were compiled by people that have been there. Are you really ready? Do you own your own firearm for the primary defense and protection of you and your loved ones? Have you ever been professionally trained to stand against life-threatening behavior? Have you ever practiced enough to fire 500 rounds during a 2 to 4 day time frame, day and night? Can you load, unload, fire, and clear a jam in total darkness? Have all the adults in your household been professionally trained? Are you, life and death, comfortable with your abilities with pistol, revolver, shotgun, and rifle? Are you aware that everything that you do to prepare for an emergency is a waste of time, money, and energy? If you haven't honed your abilities to their highest level to protect and keep what you have, do you have the repair parts that will most likely be needed for each of your firearm, and do you have the ability to install those parts? Could you completely clean every firearm you own? Are you aware that your body won't go where your mind hasn't been? In other words, without proper training, followed by regular practice, you probably will not win a gunfight. Well, how did you measure up? Take the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to start correcting your deficiencies by receiving your Commander Lifetime Membership with Front Sight Firearms Training Facility. A one-time donation to RBN for $500 will give you a Commander Lifetime Membership at Front Sight as a tremendously huge thank you bonus. See details on RBN's webpage to make it happen. The clock is ticking. You had better be ready before it happens.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's real?
and welcome back to our show here. We're talking about COVID-19. The Danish Health Authority has announced it will no longer use the Johnson & Johnson vaccine because of the possible link to blood clots. They're saying the benefits of the vaccine do not outweigh the risk of the blood clots. Another story, this one coming out of Yahoo. Scientists are trying to figure out why even the vaccinated can still get COVID-19. And they talk about this Cary Alexander Washington. He's 80 years old. He's a practicing clinical psychologist. Called his daughter in January as soon as he received his first dose of the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine. He received his second shot February 4th, and then a little more than a month later, he came down with COVID-19, and on March 25th, he died after nearly 2 weeks in the hospital in intensive care. So I guess the vaccines aren't really working. It seems to be all downside and no upside. Story coming on out of Natural News saying coronavirus may have been a little bit overblown. Gee, you think? And it's no longer the leading cause of deaths in the United Kingdom, according to the latest data. And experts have claimed that the COVID-19 fatality rate in the United Kingdom could be close to 0% based on data they analyzed. And they basically said most Britons who died of COVID would have passed away from other causes nevertheless. And so it looks like the COVID virus or whatever it is sort of at bay. It's fading away is what's going on. Now, we mentioned this before, but we're going to touch on it again. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has lifted all remaining COVID rules. He is banning vaccine passports. He will allow businesses to still require masks and social distancing, but it is up to the individual businesses. And I'm going to make a prediction right now that businesses that don't require masks and social distancing are going to do a lot better than those that do. But DeSantis said we are no longer in a state of emergency. And virus deaths in Florida have fallen sharply. Over in Arizona, the governor is banning government-mandated vaccine passports. Governor Doug Ducey issued an executive order yesterday that bars the state and local governments from requiring that residents show COVID-19 vaccine passports to enter an area or receive a service. Meanwhile, over in Washington, D.C., their mayor has now banned dancing and standing at weddings and receptions, and so couples are now taking their wedding celebrations elsewhere, and I don't blame them one bit for that. Story coming on out from Health Impact News, and it's talking about 3,848 deaths and 118,902 injuries following the COVID vaccine injections, and now children are being reported as dying as well. And they're going from numbers logged into the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System. So these are CDC numbers that we're seeing here. Now, I've noticed a double standard in the reporting of what's going on. If somebody dies within 3 months of having COVID-19, it's reported as a COVID death. But if somebody dies within 24 hours of getting the vaccine, that's just a coincidence. Another story, this one out of Natural News. Again, over in Kentucky, a nursing home is reporting most of its residents who were fully vaccinated for the COVID-19 still are testing positive for the illness. Of the 26 positive residents who were vaccinated at the urging of Anthony Fauci, 20 of them still somehow managed to come down with the disease. And this one is rather tragic here. This is out of Global Research. Pfizer is now conducting COVID-19 vaccine experiments on children, and a 2-year-old baby passed away just 6 days after getting the second injection of the experimental vaccine from Pfizer. That really is a tragedy. Another story, this one coming out of Zero Hedge. Patients who have come down with vaccine blood clots are now seeking payouts from the government vaccine injury fund. And so those who have a severe, even life-threatening reaction to the COVID-19 jab face a difficult path to compensation since U.S. law shields producers of the vaccines from lawsuits. And instead, Bloomberg is reporting patients are left to file claims with an obscure federal fund that it has a program with a history of rejecting claims and a relatively high bar for recovering costs. We're going to take another break for commercials. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Long-term storable food company, we have a solution for you. Simply Clean Foods is dedicated to providing the best quality food you can buy next to fresh from a farmer's market. Our line of resealable fruits, vegetables, and meats are suitable for everyday use, and you won't have to worry about throwing away valuable groceries ever again. Our food is completely GMO-free, and our stringent quality controls, plus testing for heavy metals, makes us unique in the storable foods market. Simply Clean Foods' primary focus is to bring clean food to people all around the world and change the way we look at freeze-dried food in our daily cooking. When you purchase from simplycleanfoods.net, not only will you be receiving high-quality food, but you will also be supporting veterans in need across the country and those who are affected by natural disasters. Right now, Amazon Prime members will receive fast 2-day shipping. Go to simplycleanfoods.net. That's simplycleanfoods.net. But do it today.
Hello, I'm Dr. Leonard Horowitz. I was right
today.
Hello, I'm Dr. Leonard Horowitz. I was right 30 years ago in warning the world about threatening lab virus outbreaks, AIDS, and Ebola. I was right 20 years ago when FBI Director Robert Mueller made me a suspect in the anthrax mailings because I warned the Bureau before the CIA's biocrime and Cipro sales psyops happened. I was right about COVID-19 being an AIDS-laced mutagen planned to resurge this fall to excuse officials' profitable depopulation globalization agendas. And I was right about the only safeguards being antioxidants and holy spiritual sustenance. Vitamin C, D, zinc, chlorophyll, oxygen, and oxysilver especially transmits the frequency resonance to neutralize the expanded function bioweapon. Oxysilver is a double superconductor of the healing power of love. It is the first nutraceutical invented to amplify prayer power and the faithful, loving intention of your heart. Buy, try, and stockpile Oxysilver through HealthyWorldStore.com.
For over 20 years now, Extendivite has proven time and again it really works. Here is a testimonial from Amazon.com. I received an arterial switch at birth. In my mid-20s, I started getting slight runs of NSVT. Nothing too serious, but enough to cause worry. I started taking Extendivite a little over 2 years ago, and it helped cut the palpitations and NSVT down drastically. This isn't a cure-all supplement. I strongly recommend a good diet and exercise to aid in any heart troubles you may be having, and I strongly recommend giving Extendivite a try. Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com. That's HEARTDROP.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Well, they're stealing down on Wall Street and in Washington too. You know it makes me wonder, what's a guy on Main Street to do? I've always tried to be an honest, upstanding kind of guy, but I must admit lately I thought about giving something else a try. Oh, I wanna be a pirate. I want to sail the seven seas, yeah, I want to be a pirate.
And welcome back to our show. Here we're talking about COVID-19, and more people are deciding not to get the vaccines. So we're starting to see more attempts at coercion. Michigan's Gretchen Whitmer has basically said, conform or bad things will happen. And a lot of states are experimenting with offering inducements. Like beer, get a shot, get a beer, even a monetary reward. Maryland's Governor Larry Hogan is offering a $100 financial incentive to state employees who get the vaccine. They are really pushing this very, very hard. Now, the other day we were talking about how there's concern that the vaccines are causing all kinds of reproductive problems, but now the CDC is officially recommending that pregnant women get the COVID jab. And this is based on preliminary post-marketing surveillance data. In other words, it's a marketing decision, not a scientific one. And post-marketing surveillance is not a sufficient substitute for randomized, placebo-controlled safety trials. So as of February 28th of this year, the combined miscarriage and preterm birth rate was 23.3%. As of April 1st of this year, the miscarriage or premature birth rate was 29%. So the rates are going up as more reports come on in and as people get vaccinated. Okay, the FDA is expected to authorize Pfizer's COVID vaccine for teenagers ages 12 to 15 by next week. And so they're going to be sticking that needle into young people's arms. Story coming out of MSN.com saying it's time to start shunning the vaccine hesitant because they're blocking COVID herd immunity. And I think that's really a very silly situation here. Herd immunity is arrived at naturally, not through a needle. Over at Twitter, they are censoring all peer-reviewed science exposing the futility of the masks. We had this story from Stanford where they had researched it and basically reported the virus particle for COVID is 1,000 times smaller than the holes in the masks people are wearing. And it's like I've said before, it's like trying to keep mosquitoes out with a chain link fence. And let's see. Over at National Vaccine Information Center, this is a highly regarded website. It has now been deplatformed by Facebook and Instagram as those working in the interests of the for-profit pharmaceutical industry further clamp down on open online access to important medical information that might affect their bottom line. It's all about the Benjamins. Now, there's a story, I did a flashback story where the CDC admitted that between 1955 and 1963, over 98 million Americans received one or more doses of a polio shot that was contaminated with a cancer-causing virus called simian vacuolating virus 40. Now, the CDC has taken down the page from their website. Google is blocking it, but a lot of online activists saved the page for this grand admission. Now, here's where the corruption really becomes obvious. There is a supposedly independent fact-checker website called factcheck.org, and it has been exposed to having been funded by the same $1.9 billion vaccine lobby group that it is supposed to be fact-checking. The site is a Facebook partner whose articles are used to censor critical voices on the social media platform. It is headed by a former CDC director, which is, again, a conflict of interest. Now, we put up a video on whatreallyhappened.com where the World Economic Forum director is on record saying there will be another viral crisis which will be faster. And I have to wonder, how does he know? Okay, that seems like a rather prescient comment to make. Turning to the international news now, for 4 years, the Pentagon failed to charge partner nations for the use of American rotary wing aircraft in Afghanistan, and the department has no way of knowing how many millions of dollars have been lost. This is coming from the Defense Department's Inspector General. And so they're not. The U.S. is not getting the reimbursement from the coalition partners. During that time period, American and coalition costs for rotary wing transportation, say that 3 times fast, hit $773 million. A lot of that should have been reimbursed by the coalition partners, but instead you're going to wind up paying for it. Another story about Afghanistan saying it's not only the graveyard of empires, it may be the graveyard of contractors as well. The U.S. intrusion into other countries involves a lot more than just the uniformed regular military. They hire a lot of contractors. Now, the United States is looking at withdrawal of the remaining 3,600 troops in Afghanistan by September, but that's not counting the nearly 17,000 contractors on the U.S. payroll there, 6,147 of whom are American citizens. They're mercenaries. Contractors is a polite name, but that's what they are. They're mercenaries. And CENTCOM Commander General Kenneth McKenzie is saying the U.S. contractors will come out as we come out. But we're hearing from other officials that, in point of fact, we're not really leaving Afghanistan after all. The Russian aerospace forces have carried out a series of airstrikes on ISIS hideouts in central Syria, and specifically the Jebel Bishri region, located along the border between Raqqa and Deir ez-Zor. The strikes took place in anticipation of a large-scale operation that the Syrian Arab Army will carry out with Russian support. And it says ISIS has ramped up its activities in the last several weeks. The Amaq news agency even shared footage of terrorists going about their daily chores in Homs, likely to show that being a terrorist isn't so bad and that's some sort of normality for the entire thing. Meanwhile, a Syria's petroleum minister is condemning U.S. forces for acting like pirates and saying the United States now controls most of the crude reserves in the northeast of Syria and is looting the oil to strangle the country's economy. And Petroleum and Mineral Resources Minister Bassam Tomeh said Americans and their allies are targeting the Syrian oil wealth and its tankers just like pirates. Up in Europe, the European Union has summoned Russia's ambassador to condemn Moscow's decision to bar 8 officials from entering the country, which the Kremlin said was in retaliation for sanctions imposed on Russian citizens by the European Union. This is another indicator of the rising diplomatic tensions between Europe and Russia since the start of this year. Everybody is pushing. The EU has in turn angered Moscow by demanding that Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny should be released from prison while blacklisting more Russian officials for human rights abuses. Okay. Lieutenant General Scott Barrier, director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, is now out there claiming that Russia poses an existential threat from the North to the South Pole. Seems a little extreme to me. And the transcript of his testimony runs to 57 pages, is very broad in its scope, but again, he's basically bashing Russia and trying to portray Russia as a bad guy that we should all want to go to war with, and I definitely do not agree with that. And over in the Philippines, their top diplomat, his name is Locsin, literally in a tweet was telling China to get the blank out of their territory. So the tensions are building there. Story coming on out of Al Jazeera. U.S. President Joe Biden is supposedly pushing to reinstate Iran's nuclear deal, and the talks in Austria appear to be working. Israel, however, continues to see its security jeopardized by a potentially nuclear Iran and is trying to thwart negotiations in any way possible. U.S. officials are in the Middle East to try and tamp down the concerns over the Iran deal. To tamp these concerns down, the Biden administration has dispatched officials to the region. Senator Chris Coons, who is seen as a key Biden ally, spoke with reporters in Abu Dhabi on Monday. He said he was there to alleviate the United Arab Emirates' understandable and legitimate concerns and create a broader engagement with Gulf countries. Benjamin Netanyahu may not have his job much longer. He has a deadline today, which is actually probably past Israel time, but he had a deadline to form a new government and no indications that he has a path to a parliamentary majority, which would prolong the country's unprecedented political stalemate and threaten to end the record run of Israel's longest-serving leader. Now, Netanyahu is desperate to hang on to power because as soon as he's out of office, he's looking at all kinds of corruption charges and possible jail time. Netanyahu had a 28-day window to build a government after failing to win an outright majority in the elections last March, and that window expired at midnight Israeli time. And if the prime minister fails to reach a deal with potential partners, President Reuven Rivlin will turn to one of his rival lawmakers who are already trying to negotiate the first coalition to exclude Netanyahu in 12 years. So that we'll see what happens there. And next commercial break, I'll see if there's an update on that story. Now, here is a little bit of propaganda, and it's coming out of Breitbart. And the headline reads, Iran almost certainly interfering in Scottish politics to boost separatism and harm the United Kingdom. Now, when they say almost certainly, that is media speak for we don't actually have any proof. We just need to demonize Iran some other way and try and undermine Scotland's desire to be a free and sovereign country. Now, over in Yemen, we've been hearing for a while that the United States has kind of pulled out of that conflict, and it's now Saudi Arabia's war. But according to this article that came out of Anti-Empire, the United States is still providing ground support for Saudi aircraft that are bombing Yemen. And Pentagon officials admitted the United States continues to provide maintenance support to Saudi Arabia's Air Force that could be used for both offensive and defensive operations. So they're still tangled up in that. Over in Eritrea, troops have killed more than 100 civilians in Tigray, according to the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission. And they're saying that this may amount to crimes against humanity. All righty. If you ever wonder where your defense dollar goes, here's a good example of it. This is from antiempire.com. The Pentagon is planning to spend almost $18 billion with a B to develop, produce, and support its new surface-to-air interceptor missile that is supposed to stop incoming nuclear missiles from North Korea or Iran. And for that $18 billion, they're going to get just 31 of those missiles. Okay. The Veterans Affairs Secretary wants more vets sickened by the burn pits to file claims, but many of those claims are still being turned away. And so Department of Veterans Affairs Secretary Dennis McDonough wants more veterans who believe they were sickened by exposure to burn pits overseas to seek help from the department, despite many being turned away. So that was a nasty thing, those burn pits here. Meanwhile, another story, this one coming out of Responsible Statecraft. Business is good for weapons companies, according to their just-released first quarter 2021 earnings. Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and General Dynamics all had first quarter revenues that exceeded estimates. Business is booming, along with most of their products. And the executives from all of these corporations were surprisingly blunt with investors, saying that the Biden administration's tilt toward great power competition with China and greater international instability means that the money's going to keep on flowing. There's going to be a lot more weapons being sold and a lot of money to be made, and so people are investing in those defense contractors. Over in the European Union, members of the parliament have vowed to reject the European Union-China investment agreement that was awaiting ratification. They're blaming it on China's human rights abuses and sanctions by the ruling Communist Party. More than 30 of members of the European Parliament took to the floor on April 28th to denounce China for demanding that the EU stop criticism of its human rights records, saying they won't ratify the China investment deal unless human rights are addressed first. Okay, we got to take another break for commercials, and we will be right back.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, 2, keep it today.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We have a special promotion going on at Republic Broadcasting. This is a fundraiser for Republic Broadcasting involving the Energy Cleaner. Mail me a postcard. My address is at my website at thelibertyman.com. We pick a postcard every other Thursday. When your postcard is drawn out, you get to buy an Energy Cleaner for $215 instead of $285, $70 discount. $200 goes to Republic Broadcasting. You also get a 10% discount on my mattress pads. So get those postcards in, put your name, your telephone number, your email address on there, and when your postcard is drawn, you get to get an Energy Cleaner for $215 instead of $285. Mattress pads, 10% off. Help us out at Republic Broadcasting and help yourself to get an Energy Cleaner at a deep discount. It's a win-win situation for everybody. We hope you can get these postcards in soon. Thank you very much.
What would you say if I told you we have a new tool that will increase production and lower maintenance costs for your meat processing company? And it would pay for itself in just 6 weeks.
When pigs fly!
The new Ease Off Model Easy 4 replaces old spring-style carcass droppers and is faster, safer, and more reliable. The Ease Off lowers or lifts 1,000 pounds to or from your rail automatically using our remote control.
Sounds expensive. Can I afford it?
Can you afford not to try the Ease Off? It installs fast with just 3 bolts in place of your current dropper. The effortless operation will reduce fatigue and injuries, speed up your line, eliminate downtime, and increase profit.
How can I order my Ease Off?
Go to easeoff.com, EAZEOFF.com, and hurry, because we are offering $200 off on the new Easy 4 for a limited time. Easeoff.com. We make pigs fly. Cows, too. Ease Off LLC, Summersville, Missouri, 417-932-6419.
Wall Street wizards on the land from a mental institution claim private retirement funds. Yeah, they are the best solution. But when the markets crash, we'll be asking where's the cash. Guess them folks in D.C. must be smoking Texas hash. Will Congress pay the piper when all the money's gone? Replace them all, start over.
And welcome back to our show here and getting into the economic news. Joe Biden had another mental glitch, if you will, and he came out yesterday saying that Americans earning less than $400,000 will not pay a single penny in taxes. Twitter was all Twitter about the biggest tax cut in history, but it turned out the president, as he is wont to do, misspoke, and we're not exactly sure what he meant to say. But it's another gaffe by the gaffer-in-chief. Mitch McConnell is saying there will be virtually zero GOP support for Biden's $4 trillion infrastructure plan, and probably the main reason for that is nobody knows how it's going to be paid for. Biden's just going to, borrow the money from the Federal Reserve and stick future generations with that bill. Commodities are riding high on the current weakness of the U.S. dollar, and as a result, prices of raw materials from food to metals used to make almost everything are skyrocketing right now. And we're seeing it here in the store. We're hearing that wood prices have increased so much, it's adding something like 30% to the cost of new home construction. Story coming on out of Blabber Buzz, and it talks about how the Biden administration is laying the groundwork for a long-term increase in food assistance for tens of millions of Americans, and he's trying to implement this without going through Congress. And he's using as a device an obscure U.S. Department of Agricultural shopping list used to define food stamp benefits perceived as the market basket. And so by playing around with that number, he can definitely increase payments to Americans on food assistance. And, I don't want to see Americans hungry, of course, but again, Biden is going to bankrupt this country. And it all comes down to the fact that we're not making products other countries want to buy. And Wall Street seems to have gotten into this idea that if they just shake the money back and forth hard enough, it's magically going to grow, and that really does not work. You need to have manufacturing, you need to have products people will buy, and you need to have those high-paying jobs so that Americans can earn a decent living and power the consumer economy. Story coming on out of citizenpress.com, Joe Biden's new tax plan will allow the IRS to snoop on your bank accounts without a warrant. And there's a new provision that would require banks and financial institutions to start telling the IRS what you have in your bank account, when money is moved around, and the like. Okay, we got to take a break for station identification. And we'll be right back with more news.
Extendivite's 7-herb formulation is approved to help maintain cardiovascular health and help lower blood lipid levels in adults. Extendivite is made from hawthorn, garlic, valerian, cayenne, bilberry, ginkgo biloba, and milk thistle. The herbs in Extendivite have been chosen for their ability to help with overall health. Many people have reported improved energy and stamina in just a few months. If you think you could feel just a little bit better, then Extendivite may just be for you. Extendivite is an all-natural supplement. Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com. That's HEARTDROP.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, putting America first, second, and third. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And welcome back to our show, hour number 2. We're talking about the economy. And the United States is launching 5 digital dollar pilot programs. This is yesterday a nonprofit organization, Digital Dollar Project, said it would launch these 5 pilot programs over the next year to test the potential uses of a U.S. central bank digital currency. This is the first effort of its kind in the United States, heading toward that cashless society. And getting on to wokeness stories here. 9 months after officials in the affluent Carroll Independent School District introduced a proposal to combat racial and cultural intolerance in schools, voters delivered a resounding victory Saturday to a slate of school board and city council candidates who opposed the plan. This has to do with that critical race theory. It was an unusually bitter campaign that echoed a growing national divide over critical race theory. So the election basically booted out the old school board and put a new one in. Story coming on out of Middle East Monitor. Students at the University of Bristol have spoken out in defense of prominent British professor David Miller, who is under attack for criticizing the Zionist state of Israel. And other university students have joined them in their defense of the renowned lecturer. Now, pro-Israel groups describing themselves as proud Zionists have been leading a vicious campaign to have the professor sacked from his post at Bristol. And again, they're out there saying that criticisms of Zionism and Israeli violations of Palestinian human rights are anti-Semitic. Okay. Getting into some science and energy news, story here from Zero Hedge, the ugly truth about renewable power. Remember when Texas literally froze last February? There were huge blackouts all over the place. Some blamed the blackouts on the wind turbines. Others blamed them on the gas-fired power plants. And in truth, both the wind turbines and the gas plants froze because of the abnormal weather. Gosh darn that human-caused global warming. When Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway said it had plans for additional generating capacity in Texas, it's talking about more gas-fired power plants, about 10 gigawatts of them. And, okay, we're going to go ahead and open up the phone lines now. Area code 512-248-8252. And let's get on back here to more of the news. Interesting little article coming out of, let's see, this came out of Russia Today, no less. And they're commenting about this article that came out in Vogue asking, is having a baby in 2021 pure environmental vandalism? And this Russia Today article is saying that the green activists have shamed people out of flying, then eating meat or having pets, and now they're trying to say that having children is a climate crime. And it's hard to imagine why anyone sane would choose to have kids right now, given the state of the world. But still in all, it's a bit of a reach to accuse wannabe parents of committing an offense against the climate by having children right now. Over in Great Britain, they just had their coldest May bank holiday ever. The temperature hit minus 5.9 degrees centigrade, and that was recorded before the snow, heavy rain, and 70-mile-per-hour gales hit. And again, gosh darn, that human-caused global warming. Okay. This is where wokeness and cancel culture is really getting silly. Disneyland in Anaheim has just now reopened after a year because of COVID-19. And one of the things they did during their downtime is they revamped the Snow White ride, and they added a scene where the prince is kissing Snow White to wake her up. And it has drawn criticism because she is asleep, obviously, and therefore not able to give the prince consent to kiss her. And so that's drawing criticism, and my guess is Disney will probably duck out and change that again. Okay, let's see. All right, story coming on out of the Blaze. Early this year, Coca-Cola became the poster child for how a corporation could shove leftist ideologies onto the consumers. The company suspended advertising on Facebook in a push to censor former President Donald Trump, published a manifesto about racial equality, and demanded all legal teams working for Coke meet certain diversity quotas. This prompted a huge backlash and a call for a boycott. The boycott threat apparently worked, and so Coca-Cola is now shifting direction and pulling back from this extremist position. Okay, we're going to start taking phone calls now. We've got Kelly in Austin. Hello, Kelly. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, about that Snow White story is the prince's name Al Franken.
Okay.
Remember that? Okay, I spent all last week in Van Horn, Texas, in the vicinity, and planning a field trip, and I talked to many ranchers. And what I'm hearing from them is that they're ready to shoot back.
Yes.
They're tired of this stuff. They're overrun, and I heard a lady called into the Steve Bannon talk show. It was.
Mm-hmm.
She's from the Valley, and she's Mexican American, and she's Republican, and she reported that there had been gunfights already between invaders and between ranchers, and I expect it to get worse. The ranchers are armed, and they're not afraid to use their firearms, and if things get worse, they will shoot. One rancher in particular told me his ranch is up on the Eagle Mountains in Hudspeth County, and these are not easy mountains to cross, believe me.
Yes.
And he said he finds stuff all over the mountains that they leave behind, and so they are a determined lot. They're coming across very difficult terrain. I mean, they're having to get up over elevations of 7,000 feet and more to cross those mountains, and they're very rugged mountains. But they're coming over, and they're abandoning things along the way, clothing and whatever else. But they're coming, and the ranchers are aware of this. These people are coming across. They're cutting their fence lines.
Yes.
In half so they can move through. The Border Patrol typically put geophones along roads so that they can detect movements along the roads. So the migrants come through and they move away from the roads into the away from the roads some distance, and then they cut through the fence lines. Well, of course, now that makes it possible then for the cattle, to migrate wherever they need to migrate. The ranchers are tired of it.
Yeah, I don't blame them.
And they are well armed. They know how to use their firearms. The problem now is that these guys coming across, have automatic weapons, and I'm not sure how the long rifles of the ranchers will work against that. But there are a lot of ranchers down there, and they're pissed. They're really angry. They know that the Biden administration does not care. They want these people to come in for political reasons. They're losing their property rights down there.
Yes.
With people coming across. And I predict, Mike, that it's just a matter of time before a full-blown shooting war breaks out down there between the drug runners and the human traffickers and the ranchers and other people south and along the Texas-Mexico border who are just tired of it and will not wait for the Biden administration to get off of his butt to do something about this. The Biden administration won't get off his butt.
No, they won't. He's increased the cap on refugees coming to this country, and they're just flooding them all in here on the belief that they'll all vote Democratic, even though they're not supposed to vote at all.
Yeah. Now, I talked with the rancher yesterday. I called him, or he called me from West Texas, and he said that his wife had talked to somebody who was down in the valley, which is further to the southeast, and she speaks Spanish, and she ran into people who were landowners down there who said that they wake up to find 30 and 40 of these people camped out in their front yards or on their property, and they're telling them, you have to be nice to us because your president says you have to be nice to us. So they're being told, the migrants are telling the Americans down there, you can't do anything to us because your president says you can't do that. You have to be nice to us. And the ranchers I've turned to said, I'm not going to be nice to you. I'll shoot. I mean, things have gotten to this point. Got to that point. We're at a flashpoint, Mike.
Yeah, we are.
Watch this. I don't think we're more than a month or two away from a full-blown shooting war down there on the border, and it's going to be driven by these by the drug cartels and by the human traffickers who have transgressed, who've gone too far, crossing property and threatening people, challenging people who live there. And they're at a breaking point. They're angry, and they know how to use their firearms. And I predict that there will be blood down there before long.
Yeah, I'm afraid you're right.
Oh, yeah, and
you don't mess with Texas.
No, you don't. No, you don't. I'm armed and dangerous over here. They're armed and dangerous down there, and frankly, we don't want this, but the government's pushing for it. And I think the Biden administration is going to get not what it wants. I think they're going to wake up one day and finally realize that these people down here mean business. They're not going to allow Biden just to destroy their property, destroy their way of life, destroy their economy. That they're going to fight back, and I predict that day, the day at which you're going to get that backlash, is soon at hand.
Yeah.
I've said what I have to say, Mike. So I'll be curious to see what other people might have to say about it as well. Thanks for taking my call.
All right, you got it. Thank you for the call. We're going to switch to Al in Canada. Hello, Al. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. That's a shame, what I just heard.
Yes.
It's a disgrace. Anyway, I sent you a screenshot of that CDC polio cancer thing, right?
Yeah, I got that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been scrubbed, and of course, I already checked with a couple of places like Snopes, and you know what they're actually giving it kind of an in between. I found that kind of shocking, but
Yes.
anyway, people can read it and decide for themselves, and they should. But I sent you an article from a website, and it says that the U.S. economy is growing quickly.
Yes.
Flashing an inflation sign. So
yeah, I just posted
the
that.
economy is doing so well. Why do they need that $4 trillion?
I don't think the economy is doing all that well. I know all the official numbers say it is, but you know, I don't trust those numbers any more than I trust the vaccines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So basically, what this really is well, bread. That's easy, right? Breads are baked in ovens.
Yes.
And of course, Biden just signed on to that Paris the redistribution of wealth nonsense. So you're going to get carbon taxes, right?
Yep.
And of course, gasoline's gone up because the United States is not energy independent anymore.
No, it isn't.
And on top of that, and here's the biggest crime, is this is like a couple weeks after they sent out $1,400?
Yes.
Yeah, well, that $4 trillion would be better served to maybe do what the Republicans want, which is $600 billion for infrastructure, actual infrastructure.
Yes.
Right? And then, maybe send out another $100 billion to the people. I mean,
well, just to play devil's advocate here, our national infrastructure is in terrible, terrible shape, and $600 billion isn't going to be enough to fix it, even if it is all spent wisely and prudently. Our highway system is crumbling. The Western irrigation system is delivering only about 30% of the water it was designed to deliver. The rest is being lost through cracks in the various pipes and aqueducts. And our country has been allowed to basically rot on the vine for going on a quarter of a century because all of the surplus money is being spent on wars, not to mention Israel.
Yeah, but also at the same time, I mean, to fix what you're actually describing, there has to be a plan in place. That you can't, you can't just throw like education. You don't just throw money at a problem and expect it to fix itself.
No.
And one of the big problems right now is who's in power and how this cash would be used, because who's to say that some governor won't take it and decide to spend a bunch of cash indoctrinating students into thinking that just because you're white you should be ashamed of yourself. It's like that $4 trillion. I've looked at some of where that goes, and it's just it's brutal. It's like a liberal checklist.
Yeah.
Of this kumbaya love fest that they all these wokers want to embrace each other with and try and push everybody into it. Because if you're not part of the club, then you're not welcome.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes,
that seems
absolutely.
To be the message that I'm hearing and reading all the time with people that think a certain way, and if you don't think that way, then there's something wrong with you. Yet they're the minority. But they have so much cash, and their voice is so big. It amazes me. Well, it amazes me only because that people actually put up with it. And obviously that's coming to an end, and hopefully it continues to end.
Well, from what Kelly said, at least in Texas, people are starting to, fight back gun in hand. And I don't like that development, but at this point, if our elections are being rigged on us, like I said yesterday, I can understand all the people who are talking about revolution now.
Yeah. Well, violence is one of the greatest motivators, right? Fear
Yes.
and violence. So obviously, fear's not working, because these people know they can just waltz in, and they're given everything on a silver platter. So there is no fear. So what's left? Well, I guess you got to take matters into your own hands. It'd be horrible if something like that actually happened, but if it's going to
it does seem that it's headed that way. Remember what John Kennedy said: when peaceful revolution is impossible, violent revolution is inevitable. And unfortunately, I think the United States is about to prove him right.
Yep. It's looking that way, Mike, and it's too bad. But at the same time, I mean, the Republic needs a good cleansing. It would help the people up in Canada as well. I appreciate your time, Mike. Thank you for taking my call.
Okay, well, thank you very much for the phone call here, and we're almost at a commercial break, so I'm going to do a little news here rather than start another phone call that I'm going to have to interrupt. And let's see. Story coming on out of the Daily Mail: is your car spying on you? And they're saying that drivers that link their smartphone with their cars, the vehicle makers are allowing access to their personal data, allowing third-party companies to the information gleaned from the car and sent to your iPhone, your smartphone. So it's a little bit scary there because we have that thing in our Hyundai here. Okay, we've got to take another break for commercials. We've got more callers waiting on the line. We've got empty lines right now, 512-248-8252, and we'll be right back.
Hey, honey, I'm home. I grabbed a newspaper on the way home. Look at all the news today.
Don't you know that all you're going to get in the newspaper is propaganda, twisted news, and false information?
Honey, this is a national newspaper. It has to be true.
Ha! For some reason, the majority of the population believe anything the mainstream media tells them. The newspaper doesn't give out the important attention of what's happening to this country and news that affects our daily lives. Say, does that newspaper mention anything about the North American Union?
No, not that I can see.
I didn't think so. You need to go to www.newswithviews.com, where truth is more important than political correctness. That's www.newswithviews.com. Hey, don't throw that away. We can use that in the birdcage.
Okay, move over. Let me start reading newswithviews.com.
The truth? Read all about it at newswithviews.com. Newswithviews.com, where reality shatters illusion.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting Truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Forced to carry his own cross while we drive nails in his coffin. You might say it is routine. It happens far too often. A decorated soldier, veteran of the war. Who would have thought that he would be among the sick and poor? A preacher man wags his head.
Welcome back to our show here, and again, a quick reminder that Republic Broadcasting Network needs your continuing support to keep on doing what we're doing, and the postal address to send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation is 800-724-2719, extension 3. Now, if you send in a donation for $100 or more, you will get your choice of an official RBN coffee mug or one of these cool official RBN t-shirts and the associated bragging rights, so include your t-shirt size as well as a return address. If you send in a donation of $115 or more, you will get both. And don't forget, the Front Sight Firearms deal is still going on. All right, we're going to go back to the phones to Mark in North Carolina. Hello, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, how you doing, Mike? Mike, you're talking about Gates and his wife getting divorced.
Yes.
Well, InfoWars had something very interesting on it earlier. They got a big, as a matter of fact, if I can, I'd like to share it with you.
Okay.
If I can get it off the site. It's actually on band.video. He evidently, Melinda Gates found out about her slimeball husband, that he had something going with Jeffrey Epstein.
There was actually a big stink a while back where somebody who was engaged in child porn was arrested at the Gates home.
Right. So there you go. That seems to be what's behind it then. So you got a hold of that then too.
Yeah.
Okay. Which doesn't surprise me. Not that I think much of Melinda Gates either, but she's probably not as bad as Gates himself. So evidently this does cause some consternation because I guess she realizes her husband is probably a child molester or a pedophile.
Yes.
On top of everything else. Bad that he is. And this is good because this may be a chink in the armor of these globalists when they're chief. I would say he's just about a chief. Either him or Klaus Schwab. Certainly one of the top chiefs is now caught for what he really is. And I think during the divorce, this is going to really come out. This is not going to be peaceful. Nothing like this is going to be peaceful. Okay.
Yeah.
There's going to be money involved. There's going to be all kinds of other stuff. There'll be accusations, and this stuff is going to spill over. So I think that's a good thing because anything that exposes these evil, demonic clowns is a good thing for all of us. And the other thing is what Kelly was talking about before about the election and all that.
Yes.
I kind of agree. I do not refer to Biden as president.
No.
I call him the demented imposter. He should not be in that White House. It's stolen property. He wanted it, and it's not by way. Tom yesterday said, "I'm coming. I'm coming to my senses," or something about Trump. No, I'm not. I think Trump was basically not a very good president.
I agree.
He made very bad decisions, especially in the people he hired. He was pretty much incompetent. If he hadn't been incompetent, we wouldn't be where we are now. He would have gotten reelected easily because he wouldn't have had
Well, he may have been reelected. I mean, that's the other reality we need to look at is that he actually won the popular vote last November, but it was taken away from him.
No, that I know. What I meant to say is that they wouldn't have been able to steal it because he would have had a decent FBI director. He wouldn't have had a piece of crap like Ray.
Mm-hmm.
He would have had decent CIA. He would have had a Justice Department, not with a globalist hack like Barr, a deep state hack going way back like Barr. He would have had maybe Giuliani or somebody else in there, somebody else good. And a guy like Dave Clark, maybe the sheriff of Milwaukee County, might have been his FBI director. Had he done stuff like that, we wouldn't be where we are now because this election wouldn't have been able to have been stolen. And if it had been stolen, they would have investigated properly right away, and it would have been reversed because there was plenty of evidence. But Barr and Ray were not interested in it. They wanted Trump gone.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. He basically is incompetent. However, that doesn't mean I'd vote for Biden, which of course I did not. I voted for Trump.
Yes, same here.
Biden is 1,000 times worse than Trump. Okay, as bad as Trump might have been, Biden is 1,000 times worse.
Yes, that's true.
But, I don't forget the things Trump did. This whole vaccine thing with Operation Warp Speed, it's his fault. He listened to Fauci instead of getting rid of Fauci and locked the country down and gave the dictatorship powers to some of these governors, all the governors really who wanted it.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, Mark, I got to let you go. I'm sorry. We got to take a commercial break. We got more callers waiting on the line, and we'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We here at RBN are working with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute to bring our audience the best in combat, tactical, and defensive firearms training. Whether you're a private citizen who is new to firearms or you have a concealed weapon permit and want a level of training that surpasses what you've received from your local gun range, Front Sight provides priceless education and skills taught by seasoned law enforcement, military, and private citizen instructors to levels that far exceed law enforcement and military standard. With nearly 1 million responsible citizens trained from every town, city, and state from across the United States, Front Sight has bolstered the Patriot movement to a whole new level. Contact Dan Sutterfield by phone at 573-762-2356 or 573-465-2356 or shoot him an email at domedan, DOMEDAN, at hotmail.com. This is a limited time opportunity. Don't miss it.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight. Women.
Welcome back to our show here, and we're going to go back to the phones to Layla in Canada. And Layla, welcome back to the show. I'm so glad you called in again, and I don't know if you've been listening to the show, but we've had quite a few callers who were hoping you'd come back.
Yes, thank you for the welcome, Michael. I appreciate it. But for some reason on main phone, I have not been able to get through to your line. So I'm using one of my alternate phones. I'm calling today specifically to pay tribute to one of your callers, and that is Tom from Florida.
Yes.
I really admire him, and I consider him to be the modern-day Paul Revere.
Okay.
Now, I did hear a conversation between you and Tom where Tom said that immigration was the issue, and you said that there were a number of other equally legitimate issues, and you were both right. However, the alternate peripheral issues are impossible without massive immigration, the kind that the evil powers that want to take or have taken over the U.S. Need in order to give them the appearance of legitimacy. Without a rigged election that produces the desired result, they do not have the appearance of legitimacy that most law-abiding Americans will respect. So therefore, immigration brings in the voters that they need and that they can control, and it also allows them then to create the chaos and the killing of one another that will be possible with the criminal elements that they are bringing in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as you know, I have numerous distant relatives in the South and Central America, as well as relatives still in the Middle East, and I have found them through my DNA site. And I have heard just terrible things. There are people living in the U.S. who will not return to their original homeland, Central and South America, because of the violence that's going on there. And a lot of it, of course, is the responsibility of the U.S., just as the killing in the Middle East has been largely the caused by the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unfortunate the U.S. has been manipulated by the corporations, the multinational corporations that have become so rich. Now, I see the divorce between Melinda and Bill Gates as a very positive feature. It's like a cleavage, a hairline fracture in their collusion, in their cabal.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to break down, and this is a very good time for Americans to take action and to reclaim their country and their rights, their human rights as well. Deaths and murders and torment has been visited upon the rest of the world in their name, with their money and their labor, against their will if they had known what was going on. So I won't keep this too long, except there is just one comment I do want to conclude with, and that is, well, actually two. One is read the Nuremberg statement that was issued by Francis Boyle,
Mm-hmm.
Boyle. Look that up. It's something anybody can use to present to someone who tries to force them to take one of those so-called vaccines. It's experimental therapy, experimental derangement of the human DNA without knowing the long-term consequences.
Yes.
And secondly, the Constitution. Someone said that the Constitution is the ultimate law of the land. Only in theory. If you go back to a statement by Chief Justice Marshall made in 1845, he said, "Let the end be legitimate." And there is something called the necessary. What is the name of that clause? There is a clause, the necessary and proper clause, that allows the U.S. federal government to take over and supersede the laws of any state. Now, that is above and beyond the supremacy clause, which allows the federal government to take over control. But the necessary and proper clause allowed the U.S. to enter into treaties with the United Nations, thus giving the United Nations supremacy over the United States Constitution. Now, look up the necessary and proper clause, look up the meaning of treaties. Unless it is explicitly prohibited, a treaty, if interpreted by Congress as having the power that it claims, then if it's not explicitly prohibited, then the UN treaty, the UN is running the U.S. So in order to save the U.S., the United Nations must be taken down. It has been taken over by global corporations. They have used it as an instrument. The WHO, the World Health Organization, with that criminal Tedros Ghebreyesus, who is a profound criminal who colluded with China, colluded with Fauci and numerous others, including the Chinese here in Canada. The United Nations is now not there for the good of the world.
No, they're not. I used to have a source inside the United Nations who said that it was just unbelievably corrupted.
Absolutely. I agree with that completely. So once again, I'm sorry I have not been able to call in. And with regard to, I want to apologize for my anger. I guess it was a few months ago, but it was right after I had made a donation of $750 USD.
Mm-hmm.
That's about 1,400 Canadian at the time. And I had made that donation within the space of about 5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the amount that I was planning to continue donating. So when someone called in and said vile things about me, I became angry, especially because I had just learned of the death of a young Syrian boy that I had been supporting.
Yeah.
He suffered from bombs that had. Yeah, there were U.S. contractors in Syria, even when Trump may not have known or said that they had been pulled out. They've been there all along.
Yes.
So innocent people like that. So I was very, very emotionally upset over that boy's death. I had become close to him and his family.
Oh, that's all in the past now, and best not to dwell on that. And again, glad that you called in, and our control room wanted me to tell you, we only have 5 lines on the phones, and if they're all taken up, then you won't get a ringtone when you call on in, and that may have been the difficulty you had earlier.
That may be, but my primary number, I would like to have the other, because the other, I don't know how good the quality of this phone is. It's the one I keep in my car for when I'm driving around, so I don't know if the audio quality is any good.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine. We can understand you just fine.
Okay, great. But anyway, you are doing a great job. And once again, Tom in Florida, you're right on, because without the masses of migrants that have come into this country, let me give you one more example. I hate to sound like Tom, but one more point. Anybody who doesn't understand the power of migration,
yes,
look up the illegal migration into Palestine and how the British were driven out because they had a deal that there would be limited immigration into Palestine, so the Zionists could not take it over. and the Altalena, the Zionist gangs themselves, the Irgun, this Stern gang, and I don't consider them Jews. I consider you to have legitimate Jewish heritage because you're Sephardi. The Ashkenazim are questionable.
Yes.
But the Sephardim were very close to the people of Judah and of the Near East and of the Middle East. So, but anyway, those who were responsible were the Ashkenazim who they sabotaged their own Jewish ships bringing in illegal migrants to win sympathy. They killed numerous Jews on boats waiting to unload the refugees from Europe. And that then gave them the sympathy so that the British finally left with their tail between their legs, just as they did out of India. And for those who are curious, look up Gertrude Bell. She has written there's a wonderful book about her, a biography about her, and her role in Iraq, Palestine, and the whole area, and how the British government used their government in the Indian colony to sabotage Iraq and take it over because of the oil.
Yes.
It was all about oil. The curse of the Middle East. Anyway, once again, it's good to be talking to you, and my apologies for not having called in for a while. But anyway, whatever, as you say, it's all in the past. The point is we've got to move forward and hopefully save that great country. Bye for now.
I certainly, that's why I keep working at it. And again, glad to have you back on board. Thank you very much for the phone call. And we're going to switch to Bobby in Florida. Hello, Bobby. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. I was wondering if anybody ever tried to Google how long it takes to count to 1 trillion. Have you ever done that, Mike?
No, I've never done that. I imagine it's going to take a while.
33,700 years.
Okay.
So if you got, I don't know. I mean, we're never going to pay this money back, but giving people money all the time, and believe me, I could use all the money, but when it starts flying out of a helicopter, they start giving, I've never seen that in my lifetime. I turn kind of nervous about that.
Yes.
They're going to keep giving people money.
Well, they're trying to get us all dependent on the government so we won't stand up and resist what the government is trying to do.
And it's working. People where I live at, you can't. There's jobs everywhere. I mean, everybody's got a now hiring sign everywhere. Where my girlfriend works at, people don't want to work. And I got a friend of mine. He's getting paid $560 a week to stay home, and he don't have to really go out and look for jobs like you used to when you're on unemployment. You can do it all online. So that's not the answer. And then I have to deal with my ex-wife to get my stimulus, and that's not very good either.
Okay, well, I can see that might be a problem.
But that's not what I'm just saying, you keep giving people money, and they're not going to want to do anything. I think you were talking earlier about bringing the fuel to us. It didn't have tanker drivers. I don't know. I know that the fuel jumped up to 20 cents on a gallon today.
Yes.
So that's getting... I went to go buy some chicken today. There was 4 chicken breasts for like $17, and that's at the poor store. I'm like, oh, geez, I don't know. I'm starting to feel it here.
Yeah.
I guess I'm start shooting everything that runs across my yard again. All right, well, let's go, Mike. That's a long way to count, though. I mean, you figure if it takes that long to count, I guess a computer could do it pretty quick. But that's a lot. That's ridiculous. We're never going to be able to pay it back.
No, we don't have a government that ever intended to pay it back. Their goal is to convince us that we own that debt and to keep us enslaved to it in perpetuity.
Exactly. And I think Genie Energy has something to do with that stuff going on there in Syria, too. I'll let you go, Mike. Thanks, buddy.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We have phone lines open, area code 512-248-8252, and we're going to go to Kathleen in Texas. Hello, Kathleen. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. Hey, Claire. I just called because, I always listen and enjoy it, but I just wanted to tell Layla I am so glad she's back. Layla is back in town. Anyway, she's such a interesting, enjoyable caller with so much enthusiasm, and I think she should have her own show. But anyway, all right.
That idea has been talked about.
Good. Okay. Well, God love you guys. You're always in my prayers.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and thank you for the phone call. And our phone lines are now completely open. Area code 512-248-8252. Getting on back to the news here. We were talking about cars spying on drivers when you pair your smartphone to the electronics of the car, and that there's programming in there that siphons off data and sends it on to third-party companies. Well, supposedly, according to the South China Morning Post, a user of the Chinese developer forum V2EX published a post detailing that his Skyworth smart TV was scanning the Wi-Fi every 10 minutes and gathering information such as the Wi-Fi network the TV was connected to, the user's IP address, device names, network latency, and so now the TVs are spying on you as well, and that is an area of some concern. Intel and AMD chips are vulnerable to a new attack. A piece of malware called Spectre has returned. Researchers from the University of Virginia and the University of California, San Diego determined that the new variants leak data via micro-op caches, which are used to speed up processing by storing simple commands so CPUs can grab them quickly. Every AMD chip since 2017 and Intel since 2011 chips uses micro-op caches, so they're all theoretically vulnerable to this attack. And the researchers discovered 3 possible ways a CPU could be infiltrated. And a same-thread cross-domain attack that leaks secrets across the user kernel boundary, a cross-SMT thread attack that transmits secrets across 2 SMT threads running on the same physical core but different logical cores via the micro-op cache. And it's amazing how intense the malware has become, and again, it is very disconcerting that our government does not really seem all that concerned about it. Now, there's a little bit of good news. Over in Germany, the police there have shut down a massive darknet child pornography network. It had over 400,000 members, and they've arrested 4 people that are thought to be the administrators of this network. And the platform was called Boys Town. It's been in existence since at least June 2019, and it was only accessible via the darknet. So 3 men between the ages of 40 and 64 were arrested in 7 raids in Germany, while a 4th German citizen was arrested in Paraguay at the behest of German authorities. Well, I'm glad they shut that one down because I think that's very sick. We got to take a break for commercials. We'll be back with more phone calls after these few words.
Hey gang, Patrick Slattery here with an important message that is pertinent to anyone who shops for groceries, eats food, or just has an inquisitive mind like myself. What I'm about to introduce you to is a segment of our food culture that has been kept so low profile to the American public that virtually no one is aware of how dominant it is on our refrigerator and cupboard shelves. What I'm talking about is the kosher certification industry and a new app, Koshertified, that delivers a comprehensive education on all aspects regarding this little-known practice. After reviewing this app, I found that it is useful for practically anyone who purchases food, regardless of their religious faith or identity. Its database of products not kosher certified is a win-win convenience for all food-conscious people. So why not check out thekosherquestion.com or click on the link at nationalbugle.com and see how modifying your grocery shopping with the Koshertified app can make a huge difference for your future.
Extendivite has proven time and again it really works. Here's a testimonial from Amazon.com. I am only 40, but I have put my body through hell working in manufacturing for 20 years. I recently started to notice a buzzing feeling along with a stuttering sensation with my heart. I had a full cardio stress done, which I passed. I decided to try Extendivite after getting the jingle stuck in my head. Halfway through the bottle, I really did notice a difference. After getting home from work, I would just sit in a chair for a few hours feeling like crap, and this stuff reduced that feeling along with heart discomfort to almost nothing. Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com. That's HEARTDROP.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Hey there, are you going to wait till the cows come home to get your new ease-off drop-and lift?
What in the world is an ease-off drop-and lift?
Our ease-off is a new tool to increase production for your meat processing company that will get that whole hog or half a beef on or off your rail with our remote control.
That sounds great, but can I afford it?
Sure, and the ease-off installs fast. The effortless operation will reduce fatigue, speed up your line, and increase profits.
Okay, I'm convinced. Where can I get my ease-off?
Go to easeoff.com. That's EAZEOFF.com. And hurry because we're offering free shipping for a limited time. Easeoff.com. We make pigs fly. Cows, too.
Ease-Off, LLC, 417-932-6419.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, I mean the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay.
And welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones to Dan in Washington State. Hello, Dan. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Dan.
Dan, are you there? Okay.
Hello?
Hello, Dan?
Laura.
Who am I talking to?
There's Dan.
Hello?
Hello, Dan?
There you are.
Okay, yeah, a little communication mess up there. What's on your mind?
I drive all over America, every state, Democrat, Republican, and as far as the masks and the lockdowns, it doesn't really matter state to state because the corporations have more power than these states. So no matter where you're at, Walmart's going to ask you to put the mask on. Now, I mean, it does matter a little bit, so that's one point. And the point, I don't like this DeSantis being pushed because if you notice, he also allowed corporations to choose to make people wear masks.
Yes.
Still. So if that's the case, then he could just choose to allow them to get a vaccine or they get fired from their job, as well. But I guess it's good he's against the vaccine passport, though. All I know about DeSantis, I agree with a lot of what he's doing, but I feel like we're being used because he basically launched his campaign from Israel, and he was for the BDS legislation, which is totally unconstitutional. And that's kind of just where I'm at with him, I'm not going to get too excited. I think they're going to push him for an election, but like Layla's saying, I mean, that's, the Zionism stuff has infiltrated both parties, and I think it kind of ruined Trump's presidency for me as well. But, I mean, DeSantis is definitely not the worst of all these people, for sure, but just watch out for that. When someone launches their campaign from Israel and they're,
for
Yeah, that's a
making it illegal
red
to
warning
boycott
flag.
Israel. Yeah, and so I had a point about Trump. Robert Rabel played a clip of True News on his show on Sunday, and it basically had Trump, just bragging about the vaccines, and he did the best vaccine ever, and no one could have done what he did, and he was kind of making fun of anyone that's against the vaccines, the anti-vaxxers. So it's kind of hard for me to stick up for Trump anymore. The guy.
Well, Trump was definitely a disappointment, but I agree with that other caller. He's certainly a heck of a lot better than what we've got in the Oval Office right now. And it does seem like things are rapidly getting worse under the Biden or whoever's behind him administration. Anyway, Dan, I'm going to have to let you go. The music is playing. The show is over. And I apologize to those who are waiting on hold. Please try and call back a little earlier tomorrow, and we'll get you on the air with your comments and questions. Stay tuned for John Stadmiller. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. Please spread the word of Republic Broadcasting. Spread the word of whatreallyhappened.com. Please donate. We'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.